Hello everyone, welcome to another time-lapse video. Today we are going to sketch this scene. This is a building in two-point perspective and there is a very tall and detailed residential block behind. Now this time-lapse video is created from a full-length tutorial that I have recorded for my patrons. So if you want to watch the full-length tutorial at normal speed, you can support me on Patreon. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can pledge a certain dollar amount to support the artists that you like. My Patreon page currently has close to 100 tutorial videos. So if you want to support me, you can check out the link in the video description below. So for this reference photo, you can download it as well. The link is also in the video description below. So alright, let's take a look at this scene. This is actually not a very complicated scene, mainly because there are many big shapes. Once you draw the big shapes, you will be able to fill in the details very easily later on. So what I'm going to try to do is to start by drawing with a pencil first, basically just to mark out the shapes. Sometimes for tricky scenes, for perspective that is a bit challenging, or for lines that, for angles that are a bit difficult for me to measure, or proportions that are very difficult for me to grasp, I would use a pencil first, just to mark down the proportion, just to place the composition on the page first. This is going to make the pen and ink sketch so much easier. And also later on when I color with watercolor, the pencil lines may not be that obvious. If you want to erase the pencil lines, you can do so, but usually I do not erase my pencil lines. I will just ink over it. So right now I'm doing the penciling stage. Basically I want to block out the building, the main building in the center of the page. I want to make sure that it fits on the page. So just draw the main lines for the residential blocks behind and try to get a feel of the proportion. This is the stage where I would divide the buildings into first, second, and a third floor. And now I'm going to ink it with my fountain pen. This is the Namiki fountain pen. I've recently developed a liking to using thin lines, so this is drawn with a very thin line. This sketchbook that I'm using, by the way, is a sketchbook made with Indigo Artpapers. It's bound by the Society of the Physically Disabled. This paper is 100% cotton, cold press. I'm now using a technique to find the midpoint of the sidewall. That's because when this wall is in perspective, objects that are in the background, they are going to appear much smaller compared to those in the foreground. So for example, if you look at the arches on the ground floor, the arches in the background, the arches that are further away from us, they are much smaller, they are very much compressed compared to those that are nearer to us. And this applies to windows as well. If you were to divide the windows equally, like they are equal in width, then they are not, the perspective is not going to look right. So you need to use this particular technique to get the sizes of those elements correct. By the way, I have a separate video for drawing this kind of sidewalls in perspective. I'll put the link in the video description below. For this wall on the right side, it faces the front more compared to that of the left wall. So when a surface faces the front, when a surface is not in perspective, it is much easier to draw because there is less foreshortening. And so for this particular wall, this right wall, I am not using the X to find the midpoint. I can just draw the windows straight away. I can just draw the arches straight away. And notice that I'm placing the columns for the arches. And also notice that I have pencil marks at the ground floor. This is so that I can place the bottom of the arch on the pencil. And for the top of the arch, I want to align it to the horizontal pencil line as well, just to make sure that I get the correct perspective. And there is this little protrusion, this little structure that juts out at the roof. Now notice I place a point there on top and then I connect the lines to the point. I find that it's easier to to connect the lines rather than to just draw the lines. And now I want to draw the signboard. The signboard is nice because the signboard, if you take a look at the signboard, this signboard is huge compared to the building on the right side because the signboard is very much closer to us compared to the building, which is in the background. And then here we have other small buildings. These are actually shophouses that are in the far background, and because I cannot see much details, I don't draw those details. I usually use vertical lines to represent the vertical edges. So the thing with drawing details is, if you cannot see the details, don't draw the details. Draw big shapes first, and then after you draw the big shapes, move on to drawing the details. And if you cannot draw the details, just leave them out. Now drawing with reference photo is a bit challenging at times because sometimes the camera cannot capture what's in the shadows as clearly as what our eyes can see. So now I'm drawing the side curb, and now I am drawing the residential block behind. Now if you take a look at the reference photo, you will see that the left edge of the residential block, that tall block behind, it intersects directly with the triangular structure of the short building. Now if the lines intersect like that, it's not good because you cannot tell whether or not that triangle is in front or if it's behind. But if you were to move the left edge of the building, move it away from that tip of the triangle, just move it away so that all the lines, they do not intersect at one single point. It would make it so much clearer for people to tell at a glance that, hey, that tall block, it's behind because the lines, they overlap in such a way. Another reason for drawing the stop sign on the left is because I want to use that stop sign together with this building on the right side to frame the main building in the center. So when we have the left edge, we have the right edge, people, when they look at the sketch, they will sort of focus right in the center. That's where the building is. Now this building on the right side is also in perspective, so you need to get the angles of the lines correct. To make this scene more lively, I'm going to add some activity. I'm going to add a car, and I'm also going to draw some people in the scene. Now notice I drew the car and it overlaps the building behind. This is due to the lack of planning. If I don't want the lines for the buildings to appear behind the car, I should have left that space white so that I can draw the car later on. So sometimes when you use pencil lines, you may want to mark out areas where you want to leave blank so that you can draw later on. Most of the big shapes have already been drawn, so now it's just a matter of adding little details in the scene, just filling in the details. Now the most challenging part is actually that residential block behind, because there is a lot of vertical lines, there are a lot of windows, but I don't want to draw all the windows. I just want to draw a few windows to suggest that there are a lot of windows. And for the top left, it feels a bit empty, so that's why I'm drawing in another building right there, just again to serve as a framing device to frame the whole scene, and also to give this scene a bit more depth. Notice the vertical lines on the left side of the building, they are very compressed. Again, that's because of the foreshortening. That's because that side of the building is facing away from us, and this part where I'm pointing to, the lines here, the vertical lines here, they are more spread out. That's because this side of the building, it faces more towards the front. And also for the windows, you need to make sure that they are drawn in perspective. The diagonal lines, they have to be pointing in a certain direction to make the viewer who's looking at our sketch believe that these are actually windows in perspective. And to get the angles, you just need to find where the vanishing point is and then draw those diagonal lines to the vanishing point. You don't have to measure each angle on its own because that would be very tedious and it's going to be very difficult to get each and every angle right. So this is a little tip to use that I use often when it comes to drawing windows in perspective. So that's about it for this pen and ink sketch. For the coloring and painting process, I'm going to make a limited color palette video for that. So remember to subscribe to my channel and watch out for that video when it comes out. Thanks for watching today's tutorial. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you and see you in the next video. Bye.